Hi everyone, it's Rich Warner from Consumer Math and Personal Finance class. Glad you could be with me again today. Today we're going to go over an example together of how to calculate state sales tax. Now this is taken from a chapter in the ebook, the course text, Personal Finance for Progressive Thinkers, which is available again on the class website, as well as through the video course or on Amazon.com in the Kindle bookstore. Now I would highly encourage that you read chapter 12 and also that you have a look at the intro video that I made regarding taxes in the United States. So today we're dealing with one of the many taxes that individuals are subject to. It is the state sales tax. Now, as the name suggests, the state sales tax is designed, levied, and implemented on a state level. It's not levied by the federal government or some local government. And in Chapter 12, you notice that there is a geographical sales tax heat map that I've included that basically shows and compares the sales tax rates across the states of the Union. And you'd be surprised to note that there are some states that don't charge sales tax at all, like Oregon, Montana, Delaware, and New Hampshire. Those are states that don't have any sales tax. You can go to the store and buy whatever you want. There is no sales tax. You can buy a car in those states. There is no sales tax. But for most of the states in the Union, there is a sales tax for certain items. And the tax rate that's applicable in each particular state is a function of the state government's decisions. So as you can see from the state heat map, the highest levels of taxation in America happen to be in states like Tennessee, Louisiana, and Arkansas, where the sales tax rate is upwards of 9.5%. That means that every time you purchase an item of a certain kind, usually it's non-food items that get taxed. 9.5% is tacked on to the sale price, and that goes to the state government. In this case, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Now in the state of Connecticut, which is where I reside, the sales tax rate is 6.35%, which is slightly above the average for most of the states in the Union. Massachusetts, the state to the north of Connecticut, happens to charge 6.25% currently. And as suggested, these tax rates are subject to change according to the wishes of the representatives in the state legislatures. It turns out that the average sales tax rate across the United States is about 4.6%. There seems to be a pattern that the states that are most densely populated tend to have the higher sales tax rates, which is why it's quite surprising to me that Tennessee, Louisiana, and Arkansas happen to have such high sales tax rates. I think it's partly because the governments there need money to pay for social programs, and it's also a way for government to discourage profligate spending, if you will. Sometimes governments want to use sales tax rates to sort of discourage certain types of consumption or excess consumption. And that may be the case with these three states. But generally speaking, the most densely populated states have higher sales tax rates to help pay for social programs. Densely populated states also have higher bills regarding infrastructure maintenance. So you can imagine the roads get torn up more quickly. There's a greater need to maintain bridges and mass transit services. Finally, there's a greater need to help pay for healthcare expenses, hospital construction, statewide educational systems, and the list goes on and on. But getting back to the state of Connecticut, the state of Connecticut basically has a sales tax policy that supports purchasing necessities. Virtually all the food items that you can buy at a grocery store are sales tax free or exempt from sales tax. And this would be everything from bread, milk, cold cuts, frozen vegetables, and things like that. Even ice cream in excess of 1 pint is not taxed. It turns out that if you walk into the grocery store in Connecticut, if you pick up that quick sub or hero off the counter, those pre-made sandwiches that you could take along and grab for lunch or something, or the hot soup, those items are actually taxed because they're viewed as takeout items. Similarly, if you go to a McDonald's or a Wendy's or any of these fast food franchises, you'll have to pay sales tax because that's considered to be restaurant takeout eating, which is subject to sales tax. There are other items that are exempt from sales tax in the state of Connecticut. Safety items such as car seats for babies, helmets for bikers and motorcyclists, and also the purchase of firearms in the state of Connecticut is not subject to sales tax. Items that have to do with medical needs are also not subject to sales tax in the state of Connecticut. So this would include items such as eyeglasses, contact lenses, prescription meds, hygienic items, therapeutic items like walkers and canes and knee braces and things like that. In Connecticut, information sources, interestingly, are exempt from sales tax. And this would include internet subscriptions from high-speed internet services and wireless routing services for internet, newspaper and magazine subscriptions, as well as the purchase of textbooks for education. Other items that are exempt from sales tax in Connecticut include shoe repair. And interestingly, the purchase of a commercial vehicle for your business is also exempt from sales tax in Connecticut. But if you were to purchase a car for your own personal use, that is subject to sales tax. So if it's a commercial vehicle of some sort, let's say it's a landscaping truck or a van for an electrician or plumber, the purchase of that truck is not subject to state sales tax in Connecticut. Finally, as suggested, the government assumes sort of like a big brother role in discouraging the consumption of certain goods and items. The consumption of candy bars, and drinks that are high in sugar like sodas and fruit drinks that are high in corn syrup, they're also subject to tax in the state of Connecticut because the government is trying to discourage the consumption of such items. This helps cut down on the numbers of people who have diabetes, for example, and also helps steer Connecticut citizens towards eating with greater nutrition in mind. So let's turn to the hypothetical example that we have in Chapter 12, shall we? It's entitled A Trip to the Grocery Store in Connecticut. So let's say we had to buy some bread, okay? And the price tag on the loaf of bread is $2.50. And this would be before tax price. And then if the item is subject to tax, we have an after-tax price. But what you'll begin to see is those items like bread, which is not subject to tax, the after-tax price is the same as the before-tax price because bread is not subject to sales tax in Connecticut. So the after-tax price happens to be the same, $2.50. So let's add two more column headings, shall we? This would be the item column, and then we're going to have a column here called subject to sales tax. And we're going to just basically check yes or no if the item is subject to state sales tax in this column. So as mentioned, bread is not subject to tax, so we're going to put a no here. Next we have cold cuts. Okay, so cold cuts. And let's say the total cost for the cold cuts was $4.99. So $4.99. And the question we need to ask is whether or not cold cuts are subject to sales tax in Connecticut. And the answer again is no, because it's an essential food item. So then we can just, again, draw an arrow here and say that the after tax price is the same as the before sales tax price. Cranberry juice. I'm just going to label it as juice. And this is the greater than 16 ounce quantity. That's $4.78. And once again, we should ask, is this item subject to state sales tax? And the answer is no, it's not. And so therefore, the after-tax price is the same as the before-tax price, $4.78. Next, we have Poland spring water. Let's say a case is $3.99. So we have water here, and we can buy it for $3.99 for a case. And as you can imagine, water is also an essential food type of product, and so it is also not subject to state sales tax in the state of Connecticut. And so once again, we can write down that the after-tax price is the same as the before-tax price. Next, we have ice cream. And this is the 1 pint and greater purchase of ice cream here. Because if it were less than a pint, it would be considered takeout. And once again, takeout items in the state of Connecticut are subject to sales tax. And so 1 pint of ice cream, let's say, costs $4.65. And because it's also not subject to state sales tax, the after-tax price is the same as the before-tax price. The next item is a turkey and cheese deli sandwich. Now, this happens to be a takeout item, even though it's being purchased at a grocery store like Stop and Shop or ShopRite or something like that. So this item happens to be subject to tax. This is a deli sandwich, and the before tax price is $3.75, and so this is subject to state sales tax. Now, you may have caught it before, but I mentioned that state sales tax in the state of Connecticut is 6.35%. So in order to calculate the after-tax price on a taxable item, we have to multiply the cost of the item, $3.75, and multiply that by 1 plus the tax rate. Okay, and that'll give us the after-tax price. I'll just put a question mark there for now. Okay, so if the sales tax rate in the state of Connecticut is 6.35%, we add that to 1 and then multiply that by the pre-tax price. And then we'll have our answer. So the next thing we have to do is work the parentheses. Always work the parentheses first in mathematics. So 1 plus 6.35%, well, 6.35% happens to be 0.0635. Okay? Remember that 6.35, divide me by 100. If you use your calculator, if you divide 6.35 by 100, you get 0.0635. Then we have to add that to the number 1, and we get 1.0635. That's the number that we multiply the before tax price of the item. Now, I'd like to point out that an easy way to do this without having to go through all these steps here is just to keep in mind that the sales tax rate happens to be 0.0 whatever the sales tax rate is. In Louisiana, for example, if the sales tax rate is 9.5%, this would be 0.095. And so you just multiply by the number 1 plus, in Louisiana's case, 1 plus 0.0950. Okay? That would be for Louisiana, 1.095. In Massachusetts, sales tax rate is 6.25%, which is a little lower than Connecticut. And so in Massachusetts, you would multiply by 1.0625 and multiply that by the before tax sales price. So just keep in mind that all you have to do is tack on the sales tax percent here to the number 1.0 and then the percentage sales tax rate. And so getting back to our example here for the deli sandwich, before tax is $3.75. Multiply that by 1.0635 for the state of Connecticut, and you get $3.99. Okay? And so your after-tax price happens to be 24 cents higher than the original sales price at $3.99 for the deli sandwich. Okay? But once again, if you want to simplify this whole process, just remember that you have to multiply by 1.0 and then the sales tax rate. and that'll get you to the after-tax price. So we're still not done shopping. We have to buy some shampoo as well. And the pre-tax price happens to be $4.65, let's say. And yes, shampoo is taxable. So to find out, once again, what the after-tax price is for the shampoo, we multiply $4.65 times 1.0635 in the state of Connecticut, and we get $4.95. Okay, so let's put that up here in this column. Okay, so you may notice here that we have essentially a table in the making, which lends itself perfectly to the use of a spreadsheet like Excel, for example. You could set up a spreadsheet like this, and I've provided links in this unit that you can click on and download a sample spreadsheet from which you can use to work out an example or two that I set up at the end of this chapter. But as you're doing this, the key point is to separate the taxable items from the non-taxable items. Once you've done that and you've isolated the non-taxable items, all you have to do is copy the pre-tax price into the after-tax column, as we've done. But for the taxable items, you should then calculate the pre-tax items, do the multiplication times 1.0635, and you get the after-tax prices. That's all there is to this procedure. What you basically have to do is, if you look at your sales receipt, just separate the non-taxable items from the taxable items, and then for the taxable items, just multiply it by 1.0635, and you get an after-tax series of sale prices. Okay, so we're still not done shopping. We have to purchase 3 more items. So let's say we need to buy some hamburger meat, some ground meat. Let's say that ground meat costs $6.99. A serving of 4 people, for example. And the question is that ground meat subject to tax or not? And the answer is no, because it's an essential food item. And so we don't have to multiply by 1.0635. We get the same after-tax price as the pre-tax price. Next we have some French fries, the frozen kind. Let's say Idaho French fries or Ore-Ida French fries. And let's say that's $5.25. And since that's also an essential food item, it is not subject to tax. And so therefore we don't have to multiply it by 1.0635. We can use the pre-tax sales price as well. So $5.25. And lastly, we have to purchase, let's say, a frying pan, which you can get at grocery stores these days. And the question is this item taxable? And the answer is yes, because it's not an essential food item. And let's say the cost of the frying pan is $7.99. And this one we have to multiply by 1.0635. So the actual math would be $7.99 times 1.0635. And we get $8.50 after tax. So we should put that up here in our after tax column. And if I could just erase the math here so that we can finish the table. Okay, so we finished our shopping at the grocery store, and the only thing we have to do now is simply to add up the after tax column, and we get our total bill, which we have to pay at the checkout counter. So we can draw a line at the bottom, and then all we need to do is take our calculator or spreadsheet. If this were an Excel spreadsheet, to add up this entire column, we would simply go equals sum, open parentheses, and type in the cell range here. Close parentheses and hit enter. Now the cell range is equal to, let's say this is column A, B, C, D, and let's say this is cell D2 here. Then the next row would be cell D3, D4, all the way down to D5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way down to D11. So in order to input the cell range in Excel, or Google Sheets for that matter as well, you would just need to key in the cell range, which is again cell D2, colon, and then the last cell in the range, which is cell D11. Close parentheses, and if you hit enter in Excel, you get the summation of this range of cells. And then you would have to just make sure you're formatted in dollars and cents, and you're done. The other approach, of course, is to take your calculator and just tally up this column. So it would be 2.5 plus 4.99 plus 4.78 plus 399 plus 465, 4.65 plus 3.99 plus 4.95 plus 6.99 plus 5.25, and finally plus 8.5 equals, and you get $50.59. And so your total after-tax bill should read $50.59 on your receipt. Now, of course, these days at the grocery store, everything is automated, and the computers at the checkout counter tally this up for you, and they do the math for you. But if you just want to verify for yourself, because sometimes there are errors that are made, sometimes you double check out or triple check out an item when you did not intend to, that sort of thing. But once again, the key to this process is simply to separate what is not taxable from what is taxable, and then to have a separate column. We then simply add it up and you get your after-tax total bill. That wasn't too bad, was it? Now, in closing, just keep in mind that every state has different laws as far as what is and what is not taxable. In some states, like in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Montana, as well as Delaware, there is no state sales tax. So in that case, everything on this side would equal the pre-tax price because there is no tax. That's easy enough. All you would have to do is add up this column right here. But that's only for states where there is no state sales tax. Each and every state in the union has different sales tax rates as well as different laws that state which items are subject to tax and which are not. In the state of Massachusetts, for example, it may quite be that the deli sandwich is not taxable at all because it's a food item. In the state of Connecticut, this deli sandwich is viewed as a takeout item, which is like a fast food item, and therefore it is subject to the state sales tax, interestingly. So keep that in mind when you're traveling across states. And in closing, I'll just leave you with one final point. Students always ask me when I teach a lesson on state sales tax whether they can drive to, let's say, a state like New Hampshire and buy a car there so that they don't have to pay the state sales tax and then drive it back home to Connecticut. Will they avoid state sales tax that way? And the answer to that question is no, because you still have to register the car at the DMV, or the Department of Motor Vehicle, in the state of Connecticut to get your plates. And they will ask you, where did you purchase this vehicle? You're still going to have to pay the state sales tax in Connecticut. So there's no way around that. Having said that, there are countless cases of individuals who cross borders into lower tax states to purchase clothing items and things like that, and they never really declare that. And that happens all the time. And in practice, what happens is, the police never stops people, re-entering their states after they cross the border to go shopping into a low tax state, only to bring it back home to their home state. I've never heard that happening. But when it comes to purchasing a vehicle, then you have to go through the official registration process. And in that process, there's no way of escaping having to pay the state sales tax in Connecticut. Well, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. In an upcoming lesson, I'm going to show you how to use the mill rate from your local government, from your town or county, and use that mill rate plus the assessed value, let's say, on a home or a vehicle to calculate the property tax on real estate or a motor vehicle. Thanks so much for watching. This is Rich Warner again from Consumer Math Personal Finance class. I hope you have a great day.